This session is going to be recorded. So welcome to Agile Practitioner virtual special interest group. My name is Alexander Frumkin. I'm an Agile coach in San Francisco Bay Area. People know me by my nickname, Sasha. This video will be posted to my YouTube channel, and Sherman was going to put it on his channel. So please don't forget to like it or subscribe for the channel. It will help us to promote our videos. It's always nice to let more people enjoy what we are doing. In the meanwhile, let me share my slides.
We got to welcome Jennifer's cat. Welcome Jennifer's cat.
Yes, absolutely. These little furry friends make this life a little bit better. So let me first introduce you to the group. We are called Agile Practitioner Online Special Interest Group. And this group was established back in 2017 as a spin-off of Bay Area Agile Leadership Network. BLN was that time on face-to-face, and this was a virtual version of it, so that the idea was that people were tired of sitting in the Bay Area traffic. People didn't want to pay $20 for parking, so it was really a great opportunity to meet like-minded people from all over the world, from the comfort of your home office without having to travel. Back in 2017, it was a very special thing. Now, unfortunately, especially after COVID, it became a commodity. Now, the majority of the user groups are virtual. Some of them are returning to face-to-face. We don't have these plans. This group was designed to be virtual. We are going to stay virtual. And the good news is we are affiliated with the Scrum Alliance. That means you can claim your one Scrum educational unit for attending this meetup that will help you with your certification renewal. You know that you have to do it every 2 years, or you could sign up for a new class. And I'm sure Sherman will help you with that. He is offering a lot of classes. And I was a student of his recent OKR class and found this pretty enjoyable and interesting. This was a really good year for our meetup group. And we had great speakers, and we already lined up the first group of speakers for our 2025 session for January. And it's Vishal Sheth and Dorian Simpson. They're talking about Agile for hardware. They actually came up with their own version of the Agile network specifically for hardware. I know it's a very hot topic. I'm looking forward to welcome them on January 9, and I hope you'll mark your calendar to join us. And tonight, I have a special pleasure to welcome Sherman Gomberg. I know Sherman for many, many years. I believe we met actually back in 2017 when we started our path to becoming certified coaches. And Sherman is, I've available. I didn't update the topic. I didn't update the topic. So, but that's good because Sherman will have a chance to introduce the topic himself. With this said, Sherman, thank you for joining us tonight. And I am passing the baton to you. You have the flight controls.
Awesome. Thanks, Sasha. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sasha's Meetup, Agile Practitioner. So glad to be here and to be your speaker for tonight. So the topic we're going to talk about is, hey, I built my own GPT, something pretty cool. So I'm going to tell you about it. I recently went to an Agile coaching retreat with Sasha about a month ago in Napa, and I had a vision that I wanted to build a GPT as an Agile coach. So tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we built it, what it was about, the purpose of it, how to use it, and I'll show you even how you can create your own GPT and how to use this one so you actually have your own AI in your own back pocket. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get started. I'll tell you a little bit about me. So a few things about me. So I'm a certified Scrum trainer, long journey to get there, and a certified team coach. Like Sasha said, we met when we were on the coaching journey together. So we did that together. We both achieved that, which was pretty awesome. We supported each other with an amazing networking of people. And the certified Scrum trainer is an amazing group of people supporting themselves too. So I've become a certified Scrum trainer. I'm also an authorized instructor through IC Agile, and I have lots of years of experience with PMI, going back to 2001. And I have kind of what I call the bookends in PMI, the PMP, and the PMI ACP. I founded my own company 8 years ago, back in 2016, called Scrum Adventures. I founded it on a way of being able to give back, community commitment, and then providing solutions such as training, transformation, and coaching. Out of that, I developed an agile transformation ecosystem, which I call Kadomi, which stands for cats, dogs, and mice. Each one of those are a team to guide an organization on their journey of transformation. So we've got a full ecosystem, online tools, enterprise suite, connects with Atlassian and Jira, and that's how we built this Kadomi coach, just to continue to extend them, which I'll show you. I've been working for over 30 years, so it goes back. I have a computer science background, IT background, lots of technical, project management, consulting, probably about every type of industry there is, and then it was just a good time to start my own. Did that. I love animals, and thanks, Jennifer, for having a cat. I think mine looks very similar. I do have a white cat with a black mask face, just like that. His name is Sebastian, and I have a kitten here, and my Sebastian hates the kitten, hates cats, hates anything else, so he is still not happy. But I have a kitten here whose name is Freya. Right now, I don't have him in the room. I also have a dog. His name is Shadow. Sasha has met Shadow before. So Shadow's a rescue, as are the two cats. Shadow's 12 years old, but he still acts like he's half that age. He is just amazing. He's a whippet mix. Pretty cool. I've been married 34 years to my lovely wife, who's a librarian. Her name's Glenda. And I have 3 adult children. My oldest, my daughter, works at Disneyland. I have one son. My sons are twins. My one son is married and lives in LA and works at Museum of Contemporary Art and is working on a master's degree in art history, because anybody who's been in art in their background knows an undergraduate degree just gets you a minimum wage job. So he's working on a master's degree, and his wife works for a really cool company called Riot Games, if you've heard of. She is a game designer. So if you're familiar with Riot Games, she's a game designer over there. My other son is going to college here in Long Beach at Long Beach City College. Just finished his first semester today, actually. So really cool for him to do the journey. Took him a little while to get started, and he finally got started this year, and so far he's thriving. Pretty cool to see. I love sports, soccer and basketball, my 2 favorite to play. I love watching probably about any sport. On Saturday, I'm actually going to be in a soccer tournament that we do through a local MeetUp, where we play with lots of other teams and hosts. So pretty cool. Love the co-ed aspect of it, and which is kind of fun too. We always play co-ed now, so makes it more social. So I like it for that too. So that's a little bit about me. All right, let's talk about a problem statement. First off, rules of engagement. Anytime you guys have questions, feel free to raise your physical hand or your Zoom virtual hand. If you want to drop something in chat, feel free to drop it in chat, Zoom chat. Sasha said he'll monitor that. So if you've got something in there, if he can answer it, he'll just answer it. If not, he'll just say, hey, Sherman, there's something in chat. So we're a good small group. So something on your mind, please ask it. So we can definitely address it right away. All right, here's the problem statement. So here's what was in my mind. When I went to this coaching retreat, I basically had an idea in mind that there's a problem statement. I work at different companies. I do lots of coaching and clients, and often I have to leave. Basically, I have to fire myself. Either the client just doesn't have funds anymore, or I'm ready to do something else. But you don't want your client to feel like they can't do their work, they can't do their job anymore. You want to leave them with an amazing experience. So, problem statement: new Agile coaches or Scrum Masters, they need help getting started. They need to improve their confidence. They need to learn how to work with individuals, teams, and the organization. So it's always good to start with, anytime you want to build anything, what's the problem you're trying to solve? So that's what I did there, using Agile to do that, coming from a product perspective. So I started with that problem statement. I pitched this problem statement at the coaching retreat. There were probably about 75 of us there at this coaching retreat. Pitched it to them to see, hey, who wants to be part of this and help while we're there for the 2.5 days? And a handful of folks said, oh, that'd be really cool, and we're part of that. Some people come and go, and they all helped on this problem statement to say, yeah, let's go solve that. That's pretty cool. So in order to solve that, best thing to do is say, we got to use Scrum. We're all Agilists. We all know Scrum. So let's use what we actually know. So we're using Scrum. So here's the first thing we did. What is our product goal? And then build a product backlog. So we set a product goal. Product goal is we want to have a working Agile coach GPT. Basically, we want to have a generated pre-trained transformer that acts as an Agile coach. That's our goal. Let's make that happen. And it needs to be working, right? Nothing's valuable if it's not working. If you only have a design or an architecture or something, you didn't get the value of it. So we want to make it working. So we set that product goal, and then we said, let's build a product backlog. So the folks that went and joined here, we did some silent writing for a little bit. Everybody just kind of think about, what does this look like to you? Everybody wrote on Post-it notes, and we just stuck them up on the wall. Then we went through some affinity grouping where we just kind of grouped the like type of ideas on there. And we saw some really cool, amazing things. And I was already really excited because I had an idea, I had a vision, but I didn't think the way a lot of these other folks thought. And this was pretty neat. They brought things that I would not have thought of by myself, or maybe I would have gotten there, but much later. Sometimes, I might have noticed it, but I wouldn't have noticed it here in the moment. So having all these people with different ideas, different cultures, different backgrounds, even though we're all coaches, we still have different things we're thinking about. And we built a backlog. All right, so out of that backlog, we basically said, okay, we have to figure out who we're going to build this for. So we talked about the problem statement, which I kind of gave you, which is an overall idea here. We built a product goal, we got a product backlog, but we really want to know the person we're building it, basically, who's the customer. So we created a persona. And the first person who put this here at first didn't know how to spell persona, so we fixed that. Persona has one N, not two. So persona. So we created a persona. We basically said we wanted to be a new type of coach. Somebody who understands the Agile mindset, but they want to know how to use the tool. They want to be a better coach. We kind of gave them persona. They're probably in their 30-ish. They have some Agile experience, but they're pretty new. They've worked as a true leader, but they've never really been an Agile coach or guided multiple teams or an organization. Kind of said they like to do some outdoor activities. They want to feel fulfilled. They have lots of fears. So we kind of identify, what's their nervousness, what's their constraints. So we wrote this persona. We ultimately named this person Newbie Nat. Personally, I like alliterative names. We ultimately came up with the name Nat because it's kind of gender neutral, which is kind of nice to do. And when you have something alliterative like Newbie Nat, anytime you're talking about Newbie Nat, everybody knows who that is. Oh yeah, that's a new Agile coach. Great. Okay. So created the persona. Okay. Again, anytime you guys have questions, insights, concerns, just raise them up. All right. After we got the persona, we said, we got to build sprints. All right. So how much time do we have? So we had 2.5 days at this coaching retreat. During this coaching retreat, breakout sessions were set up. There were 6 breakout sessions that were designed as part of the coaching retreat. So for those of us here, we said, let's make each breakout session a sprint. It's like, perfect. Each breakout session is going to be a sprint. Each breakout session was about 1.5 hours long. So our sprints are 1.5 hours. And if you know the Scrum Guide well, Scrum Guide basically says the sprint can be up to a month, but it never says how short it can be. So 1.5 hours fits. Fits the Scrum Guide just fine. It's the shortest sprint I've ever run, and it worked pretty well. So we created 6 sprints. Each one was 1.5 hours. And what do you do? First thing you need to do, sprint planning. You got to set a sprint goal. So, okay, sprint number 1. What's the sprint goal? So we came up with the very sprint goal, first sprint goal. And the first sprint goal was basically to launch it and learn. None of us ever deployed anything to a ChatGPT marketplace before. We never built a GPT on our own. So we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. I did some research ahead of time, but I never did this and nobody else in the room. So we said, let's overcome any unknowns first. Eliminate the risk, eliminate the unknowns. That way, if something happens we didn't think about, we still have sprints to resolve it. So tackle the tough things first. This is where Scrum thrives. So launch and learn. So then we pulled the stories in that kind of helped us to launch a GPT and see what we can learn. So how do we get it into public, for example, right? How do we actually give it, a type of voice, and how do we know who it's built for? So those were some of the things we did. So we ran that first sprint. Awesome. Here's some of the things that happened here. First thing, you had to give it a name. So this is, I'll show you later physically in ChatGPT how to do this. Right now, I'll show you the PowerPoint first, but we'll actually get into the tool so you can see it too. So give it a name. So we wanted to make sure the name was something that was really obvious for somebody. So it's got to be Agile Coach. GPT is good, so people know it always is generative pre-trained transformer, even though it's part of the ChatGPT experience. And we went with Kadomi because Kadomi is a brand and Kadomi is kind of a name. It already is something that guides your organization. So I wanted to kind of tie it all together. So Kadomi Agile Coach GPT is a name that we came up with. We got good thumbs up, and that's what we went with. Then you have to give it a short description as you kind of build it in the launch and learn. So, okay, what's a short description that'll help people identify what this is really quick? Don't overpower it, not too much. This is what actually shows up in the marketplace, so make it easy. So here's what we came up with. It's a GPT by Agile coaches for Agile coaches. If you see that, it's pretty clear who it is. So that's the description we came up with. Then we learned something new. We basically learned, just like any good product, something's going to emerge we didn't think about. We built a persona about who we want to solve the problem for, but we didn't build a persona for the Kadomi Agile Coach GPT. Who are they? What are they? Who is this particular GPT? So that was an emerging product backlog item. And we went ahead and had to pull that in as part of our launch and learn. So we did that and basically said we needed a persona for this. So we built an Agile Coach Kadomi GPT for that. We modeled it after myself and my good friend Hutch. Both of us are experienced Agile coaches. So we said, what is it like for us when we have to leave a client and they have to self-manage? We want somebody to be able to ask as if they're asking us. So we kind of modeled after ourselves and used the experience of all these other coaches that have experienced. And this is what we came up with. So Agile Coach desires to be a mentor. They're well-rounded. They love to help others. They're pretty friendly. We wanted them to be a friendly and fun voice. They have lots of experience and they have certified experience, not just actual experience. So they've got certifications to go with that. They have good sense of humanity. They've worked with individuals, teams, and full organizations. They'll thrive on feedback, so they're welcome to continually learn. So we wanted to make sure we did that too. They're always available 24/7. So, like a GPT, they should be. And they kind of work within what we call a coaching triangle, where we have the coach, the coachee, and the relationship between them. So we built it around that. So we had to design that. Out of that, we created the persona, which is basically the instructions when you're building a GPT. You have to tell this GPT who it is. And the instructions are basically a persona. So this is what we end up writing. We took that slide that you saw, that flip chart slide, and we converted it into instructions here, which is basically a persona. So you can see if you wanted to read any of this, I won't go into the details, but you can see, who they are. They desire to be a mentor. We say what professional certifications they hold, so that way it knows how to do that and that type of stuff. So personas created, still part of launch and learn. That kind of wrapped up most of our sprint one. We actually deployed this to the marketplace as a private GPT, basically through what's called a private link. So it's not searchable in the marketplace, but you can share the link so we can actually validate and test it with everybody in the room or stakeholders to get feedback. So we did that. That was sprint one. It's pretty cool. We actually had a working product. And, we didn't know we needed a persona. That was the emerging requirement. It's pretty cool. Okay, sprint number two. Sprint number two, we said, okay, we got to train this, right? Just like any newborn, right? We got to train them, teach them. What do they need to know? So one of the things we learned as we kind of built the GPT, you have to create what's known as typical conversation starters. And in this case, we're trying to say, hey, if you're newbie Nat, what are some typical things that you might want to know? And this shows up in the GPT when you first launch it. There's always some conversation starters. So we kind of did some ideations and refined this. We actually had it written backwards at first because we had it written from the perspective of Kadomi instead of the perspective of newbie Nat. So we had to switch it and rewrite the questions, but we learned that. And that was kind of cool about being able to do things in an hour and a half, test them immediately in the room, and get feedback right away. And here's the 3 conversations with stars we came up with. What do I do when I'm not with the teams? Newbie Nat is curious about that. I don't know what to do if I'm not there in the room, right? How do I know I'm an effective coach? I'm a little nervous about that. I don't know if I'm effective. And how do I ensure that the meetings are valuable? Making sure they're actually spending their time wisely. So these were 3 conversation starters that we came up with to start to train the GPT. Out of that, continuing using our Scrum framework, we basically allowed empiricism to happen. We used the 3 empirical Scrum pillars. We were transparent, we inspected, we adapted, and we said, you know what? We don't have a definition of done. How do we know as we start to create these product backlog items that each one of them is actually done? So we all have a good understanding of that. So we let our definition of done emerge. And here's what we came up with. We basically said, anytime somebody adds something to GPT, we want to deploy it into the private environment. We want to make sure we actually create a prompt so we can test it. It's got to be QA'd. So we want to create a prompt so we can test whatever we did to the GPT, so we can validate that it gained the new learning, the new understanding. And the third thing we did for our definition of done, we're going to run that prompt using our Kadomi Agile Coach GPT against standard Chat GPT, because we want to see the differences. We've now built a new persona. We've basically built a new AI. This new AI is going to act differently. So that was part of our definition of done. So we allowed that to emerge, instead of trying to figure it out up front and not actually build anything. All right, new sprints. So once we have definition of done in place, right, which included deploying to the ChatGPT marketplace, we basically set some follow-on sprints. Sprint 2, the goal, got to build a knowledge base. We got to teach it information. How's it going to learn knowledge, right? Some of the knowledge we taught it was we had to load the professional coaching standards. So it knew how to act as a professional coach. We had to load in the Agile Manifesto, the values and the guides. It's like, hey, if you're going to be an Agile coach, you better know Agile, right? And we loaded in the Scrum guide also. We want you to also act like Scrum. So we did some of that right there. It was our basic knowledge base for Sprint 2. Did some of those things right there. Sprint 3, somebody brought this up in the product backlog, which was great because this was not in my mind. And I love they did it. They said, we want to make sure this Agile coach acts as an ethical Agile coach. Appreciates compliance, intellectual property, does things in a proper way that is truly ethical. So I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm glad, glad they thought about that because it wasn't in my mind. And we basically, okay, where can we teach it to get ethical? So we basically went to the International Coaching Federation, and we basically said, what ethics and guidelines do they have? And they have published ethics and guidelines. So we took those ethics and guidelines and we taught it. These are ethics and guidelines to follow. I think we got some other ethics and guidelines, maybe from either Agile Alliance or Scrum Alliance. I can't remember where we loaded them from, but we also got the ethics and guidelines from those organizations. And we taught it to act ethically according to these guidelines. So that way, when it responds to prompts, it's going to check and make sure, am I acting ethically? So kind of give it the nice, good constraints that we all desire. That was Sprint 3. And same thing with the definition of done. We had to create a prompt to make sure it actually acts ethically compared to asking the prompt in standard ChatGPT. Sprint 4, more knowledge training. All right, we gave it a base knowledge, but now we needed more advanced knowledge. Some of the things that we loaded here, loaded a lot of things from Kadomi. Kadomi Agile Transformation Ecosystem consists of a bunch of rubrics for measuring agility for teams that helps guide them through their journey. We took all those rubrics and we loaded it. So it actually has guidelines to see if teams are underperforming, improving, or high performing across all the Scrum events, all the Scrum accountabilities, even coaching in there too. So it was taught on rubrics, and it can now even build its own rubrics. We also taught it about how to set up an organization on that journey so it can help the coaches, how to create those cat, dogs, and mice team. A cat team guiding an organization. Dog teams are the specific teams. Mice teams are independent, innovative communities of excellence. So we taught it all that, along with a lot of other sources that we found to get it going. So we went with knowledge training for Sprint 4. Staying on that sprint, here's kind of what it looks like when you put it into the GPT. Right. So we did this by taking every source that we found and we converted that into a Word document that was formatted. We decided to do this because we wanted something formatted that would make it really easy to train the GPT. It's referenceable, so you can see headings and subjects below it. So it wasn't just a chaotic mess that might be interpreted in the wrong way. So we wanted to give it a structured information. So we created a Word document, converted it to PDF. You don't have to convert it to PDFs, but we did that just to be standard. And those PDFs then also had to have a nice title or file name to it. So that way, whenever the GPT is, it knows what it's referencing. So it had a specific name to say, what is this that I'm being trained on? It wasn't just, file number 123, but it actually had a good file name. And you can always check the source of that. So that was part of what we learned to make that. And you can ask the GPT and say, hey, tell me about the file where you've got trained on this. And it can tell you where it got it. I'm getting this from the 2020 Scrum Guide that I was taught on. Or I got this from the Code of Ethics. So it can tell you where it's trained. So that's what that sprint was about. Our final sprint was preparing for the stakeholders. All the Agile coaches that were in the room, the 75 people or so that were there, they're all stakeholders. They're all highly invested. Many of them were actually committed because they were part of actually building it. But the rest of them are invested in saying, yeah, we can use this. Whether we're very experienced coaches, we're new coaches, we can definitely use this or we can help others. So we wanted to prepare to create a demo, a presentation, gain their feedback, see what else we can learn so we can refine our product backlog beyond the Agile Coaching Retreat. So we ran that demo, got a lot of feedback. I actually did some post-training after the event was over to kind of give it some more knowledge based on the feedback I got. So I used that feedback to load it back in. And then we have a running Agile coach. Okay, two things we're going to do here. First off, what questions are on your mind? Then I'm going to show you, after I take a few questions, I'm going to show you how it was built, and we're going to run a few prompts. And then after that, we're going to put you guys in breakout rooms and let you guys practice some prompts. So I want to hear from you and see you guys experience it. So let's start with some Q&A. Karen, let's go with you first.
Not a developer. So you have all this content. So, we've got a lot of content on our laptops. What is it that allows, the GPT to go in, analyze everything and put it together?
Yeah. So good question.
And logical sentences, cohesive. You go in, ask Copilot something, and it'll go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. What other questions do you want? So
right. So good. So a little bit of kind of what AI is about is what I'm hearing your question. So anytime you're building a GPT, generative pre-trained transformer, you're basically taking the power of all of this knowledge that exists out in the world. And typically, until there was AI, we've been using Google search. Google search is pretty much a static representation of an answer. You're searching for something that somebody already defined, structured, and created, and it presents that information to you as it was written. When you're working with the GPT, it's taking all that information and creating something new out of that content, trying to kind of get towards what a human brain does. You might read a whole bunch of books and then you go to a book review with your friends, and you're not necessarily reading the exact paragraph back, but you're interpreting it based on a question. What do I get out of it? It's kind of what a GPT does. So the GPT has the power of all of this knowledge that exists in the world. And then what we did here with the Kdomi Agile Coach GPT, we gave it a focus. I don't want necessarily it to be generic for the whole world, but I want you to have a specific type of personality or persona. So we narrowed and focused it a little bit. So what it got trained on, it's almost, it always makes me think of the Matrix. You ever see the Matrix movies, Karen? Yeah, okay. So if you remember the Matrix movies, and if you think back of Neo, when he basically says, I now know karate. He gets loaded with the karate module, and then Morpheus basically says,
Helicopter
show me.
download. Yes.
Yeah, he says, show me. That's what happens with the GPT. You load it with ethics, and now you can say, show me ethics. And it's not just going to repeat exactly what the document does, but it's going to merge that into everything else it knows. And that's kind of what you're doing here. Anytime you load new information, it's taking existing and narrowing it and focusing it and adding to its capabilities.
Okay, so what GPT are you using?
So this is built, this is built within the OpenAI ChatGPT marketplace.
Okay, that's what I didn't get.
Sorry if I didn't make that clear. Thanks for asking that.
Okay, great. And what level of access do you need to be able to access and do what you did?
Yeah,
It's
good
not just
follow-on
anybody,
question.
What version?
Sure, and I'll show you that. You can use the free marketplace, so you can have no subscription whatsoever, and you can use it, but it'll limit how many questions you can ask in a day or how many prompts you can ask in a time period. ChatGPT will limit it, so you don't get unlimited. If you pay the, I don't know, $20 a month, I forgot the price, but if you pay $20 a month, you have an unlimited use to this and any other marketplace GPT. Yeah, but the free version will let you use it. It just limits how many prompts you can do in a time period.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Karen. Let's go to Doug.
Thank you for taking my question. Nothing about Agile. So I didn't realize that they allowed you to tune the GPT based upon your own input. That's fabulous. So it weighs the stuff that you input more. Is that kind of how it goes?
Exactly, because that's who you're telling it to be. So, think
So
about
I
it.
can
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
so I can like write documents describing my philosophy of life and then create it and have it become a parent for my kids.
Yeah, you can call it, you can call it the Doug, whatever. This is the Doug.
And just put my philosophy of life there, and they can come and ask it, well, this is my situation. What would Doug do? And it would parrot that back. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I'll get into something
Wow.
that's a little bit wild. I won't go too deep here because it kind of gets into, a little scary for some people. But you can create yourself as an AI, which is kind of what you're hinting at, Doug.
Yes,
And
yes.
after you're no longer of this world, right? The AI Doug can exist. Your children or your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren can basically say, hey, I want to go see what great-great-grandpa Doug would have thought. And if it has all the knowledge you've had in your life, all your memories, all your experience, the way you think, it can continue to act in that way. And eventually we'll start having more of that. You can kind of, add, there's a lot of things you'll see in science fiction, but eventually we get there. But at the simplest level, certainly you can ask somebody who kind of acts within, the mindset of what Doug would be like. Yeah.
So one more question, if I could. That
Please.
also means I could have a chat GPT on a product that I'm the product owner for and have it consume all of my documentation.
Absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
it could you can ask it any question about that particular product.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Which is really good because you can, if you're building product, we'll just call it a widget, right? Let's say you're just going to build a widget and you tell it everything it knows about the widget, and you tell it about the typical customers, you tell it what's happening in the world, And then you can ask that GPT that knows about the widget and say, what should I build next? What if this happens? And since it knows the product as well as you do, it's going to come up with some things you might not have thought of. And it's a tool. Don't use it just verbatim and say, we must do this because the GPT says this, but it'll probably give you ideas you never thought of before. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. And then it uses not just your content, but the other content basically to learn what English is and how to put words together and all that, I suppose, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And thank you to Alessandra for putting the term in chat, digital twin. Love it.
Oh,
Appreciate that. Nice. Let's go to Jennifer.
Hey, so I suspect you may be answering this question fairly soon, so totally fine. But so I was curious to know, I know you have like a structured like documents with like the labels, but does the data have to be formatted a specific way within the documents, right? Because I'm curious to know how your chat or your GPT, like how it's learned, like do you have to have like a structured format, or what does that look like?
Right.
To
No, great
learn?
question, Jennifer. You do not have to have a structured format. I chose to do a structured format because I wanted to make sure the content was easily known and accessible and understood. And as a newbie Nat, I want newbie Nat to really understand who this coach is too. So to know who Kadomi is as an Agile coach. So I created the structured content wherever we got the content, whether we got it from, ethics, or we got it from, creating a cat team or a dog team, or we got it from anywhere. We kind of structured that, made a PDF of that, and titled it so it can train. But no, it can be very unformatted, and it'll basically take that and load that into its knowledge base. I just wanted to be able to go back and understand the source a little bit more. So we put a little bit of structure. Now we only had 90-minute sprints, but it was still pretty quick on that. It's just like, hey, take the information and just use Word and just create a heading and a bullet list, heading and a bullet list, heading and a bullet list. And it went pretty quick. It was just mostly a lot of cutting and pasting off of websites is pretty much what we did. So instead of just, taking a whole website and taking it as is, which might have some images, it might not be structured, it might come up with something different. And we wanted it to say, here's what we wanted to know about that content. So by giving it some structure, we were basically able to say, what do we want it to learn?
That's helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. And I'll show you some of that. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll show you guys how it was built, and then we can play with it a little bit. All right, let's move forward then. I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so we'll go into the GPT. You can do that by going to OpenAI. Actually, we'll just go to ChatGPT. Just go to chatgpt.com. You can go here. I'm going to log in because I do have a login here. So I'm logged in. I'm on the $20 a month paid plan here, which you actually have to do to publish in the marketplace. That was one thing we learned in the very first sprint, which was launch and learn. And one of the things we learned is you can't deploy to the marketplace without being on a paid plan. So we learned that right away. All right, so right here, we're on the standard ChatGPT, which is GPT 4.0. If you're on a free one, you might be on a earlier version like OI Mini or OI or O1 or O1 Mini. But if you're on a paid, you can use ChatGPT 4.0. And if you wanted to actually find it in the marketplace, you go into what's called Explore GPTs. So I'll show you this first, then I'll show you how it's built. So Exploring GPTs, if you can remember the name of it, you can just type Kadomi and you'll find it. We're the only Kadomi out there. There's actually a fitness coach that uses a term called Kadoni. It's spelled a little different, so it shows up because it's close. So you can do that. Or if you just type Agile Coach, you'll find there's hundreds of these. But ours is pretty much near the top because we've gotten a pretty good amount of adoption already. Yeah, we're already showing this third. So there's already a lot of people. So I want to grow from 100 plus installs, trying to get to the 1K, the 1,000. So hopefully you guys can help get that and share the story here. So once you do it, you can find it. You just click it. And now you can start new chats. It's got some ratings here already to it. So I'll start a new chat. And you'll see here's the description that we put, a GPT by Agile Coaches for Agile Coaches. And here's the 3 prompts. These were those 3 starter questions. And you can ask it one of these. You can just click it, which is why you ask those. And 3 is always a magic number, especially if anybody remembers Schoolhouse Rock. 3 is a magic number. So we want 3 as our starting questions. You can ask it that. And it says you can focus on several dimensions based on recognizing Agile and coaching frameworks, alignment with Agile mindset and principles. Since we taught it about the Agile Manifesto, it starts with the Agile Manifesto. Talks about psychological safety, because I taught it about psychological safety as part of one of our rubrics. One of our rubrics really focuses on a psychologically safe environment, which is great for coaches. So you want to be able to make sure there's a safe environment to be an effective coach. You want to have a coaching presence and you're adaptable. Tells you how you can be high performing in there, how to do partnerships and relationships, impact on teams and organization. And here you can see, because we taught it ethics, it also brings up ethics. So I mean, I know what it was taught on, so I see these things pop out. It also has agility metrics built into it. How do I measure agility, which is what the rubrics are about? And you can evaluate against those rubrics so you can actually measure yourself to see, am I effective and I am performing? And then it gives you some more coaching stance here. And a kind of cool thing, if you haven't used GPTs too much, you can even ask it and say, thanks, Kadomi. Tell me more about, I'll just put number 6. I'll just do it that way. I won't even bother typing it in. And I want to know more about ethical practice and professional coaching. So I can go deeper in here. So if there's a particular area that you want to know, you can do that. So you can get into there. So those are pretty cool. So that's one of the standard questions here that you can do. You can always start new chats, which are kind of neat. So I can do a new chat here. And you can do a new chat, which will kind of start a new conversation. So if you want to keep the conversation going, your GPT is a conversation, like you're talking to another human. But if you're ready to start a new conversation, you just say new chat. And I can say this and say, I'll do, hi, Kadomi. I'm a new Agile coach. I'm curious about your training. Can you show me the training materials? You can do that and actually tell you what it's trained on. And it'll actually tell you all about the different things that it's loaded on. So agility metrics, Agile Manifesto, Scrum Guide, Kadomi ecosystem, International Coaching Federation, core competency and ethics, leadership guidelines, and called a blog about Agile leadership, and Agile coaching ethics. Yeah, and I could even say this, show me a list of file names, which is why I just gave them specific names. You can always ask the Agile coach to show you specifically. And it'll actually tell you the files, which is kind of cool. So if you ever look at GPT, you can say, well, I really want to know what they are. And this is why I made sure everyone had a title, because I wanted to be completely transparent. Your Agile coach needs to be transparent. So if it's a GPT, it needs to be transparent. So here's all the knowledge sources it was loaded on. And if you ever see one, it's like, ooh, there's something else I'd like it to be trained on. Then you give me feedback and we enhance it. The whole marketplace should be able to enhance this. So the transparency is part of being empirical, right? With transparency, you can inspect and adapt. And you can even look inside of one of these, like maybe you really want to know about, let's say, what's a good one here? Let's just do the ICF Code of Ethics. Yeah. Show me the ICF Code of Ethics. For some reason we named it 1, maybe we loaded it twice. Yeah. And this will actually show you exactly what's inside the document we loaded, which is why we structured it. So again, to be transparent. So it's all structured. And I was going to go ahead. Where did I put that? So here's all the files that we ended up loading, just to kind of show you what exists. They're sitting here on my computer, but I can look and see this code of ethics here that we did here. And just to show you, just for comparison. So here's the code of ethics. And this was actually a document that came directly from ICF. So we didn't create this ourselves. We actually took their actual code of ethics as a published document. But you can see it there. And then you can see it here. Yeah. And here they just kind of highlighted it as an overview. You can see it called ethics overview. But if you want the details, you can ask it and say, you know, show me the whole file contents. So keep that conversation going. There you go. It's extensive and not can be presented as a single response. So anyway, I won't keep going, but you can see how you can kind of play with it and know that type of stuff right there. So you can do that. All right. I want to show you how it's built a little bit. So I'm just going to show you that for a moment here. So, so you can kind of see behind that. So here's my GPT. I'm going to go into edit mode. So if you want to build your own GPT, as was being asked there for a bit. So you come in here and you can do configure, which is where we're at. And this is what you configure. You give it some type of image. So what you do, name, a description, the instructions, which was their persona, those conversation starters, and then all of the knowledge files, and you just upload them. And then you set up what capabilities you want it to do. I set web search. It can actually generate images. It can interpret and write code for you based on this. So I did that. Canvas, I don't know if that was there before. So I didn't do Canvas. I'm not sure what that one is actually. So that's it. It's not actually that hard to create your own. So you can create your own here. It's a lot simpler you did. And then after you're all done, you just click, update or publish as it would be up here. So I'm not going to republish it here. So exploring again, those Agile Coach. Do that here. All right, and you can do this here if I wanted to do, what do I do when I'm not with the team? And this is where you kind of want to go ahead and do the side-by-side comparison. So I'm going to pull this one out here. So right here, I ask it a pretty generic question, but I know I'm asking an Agile Coach. You're not after numerous things. Now, if I had a generic question like that and I asked ChatGPT, so this is the Kudomi Coach, I'm going to copy that. And you can see about professional development, building relationships, organizational development, practices, measurement and metrics, develop Agile leaders, right? Ethic and safety. It's a lot of good things there. If you happen to like doing user stories and backlogs, I'm kind of big with this, create me some user stories for developing Agile leaders. And you can do that. I didn't ask it to do acceptance criteria, but it could be more specific. So you can actually create, if you like user stories, can do that for you. So you can kind of say, what's your backlog? What I wanted to show you though, what if we switch it and we go back to standard ChatGPT? So here was the prompt, what do I do when I'm not with the teams? Now I'll give it a little bit more and say, I'm a new Agile coach. So we'll even give it a little bit more because I'm just asking ChatGPT, which is asking the world. And Jennifer, I'll get your question this time. Yeah. So one thing I noticed when I was comparing the prompts, that standard ChatGPT is a little bit more process and more specific, telling you what to do. So it's very kind of consulting. You know, I come in and, hey, I'm an expert. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. Now, if you ask the same prompt when you go to the Agile Coach GPT, it guides you because a coach should be able to help you. It should coach you on that journey. And you'll see there's really a difference in the language and the tone and the idea because it has the mindset, it has the ethics. But here you can see a lot of these are a little bit more specific. So there's some good stuff here, but you'll see it tells you a little bit more what to do instead of helping you get there. That's what I see as the difference when I was prompting those two. Let's go to Jennifer. What's on your mind?
Hey, so okay, got really curious. Thank you for describing all that you're describing. It's very helpful. Um, if if you have a lot of questions that are being asked in the chat, as me as the end user, is that being logged somewhere so you can build upon the content? Like, I don't know,
Sure.
maybe, yeah, I'm just very curious to know if that information is being fed to you as a product owner and me as an end user.
Absolutely. So if you look over here in this left-hand navigation, here's all my history of questions I've been asking. So I can see this. I recently taught a CSM class, for example, and I asked the Agile coach to create exam questions. So I can click that, and it doesn't generate the prompt again. It actually shows me what happened. So it's a historical, log, which is kind of neat. So you can have that, right? Because I actually asked it to generate some test questions for my students. I'm like, these are good. And because I trained this coach on Agile and the Scrum using the Agile Manifest and the Scrum Guide, it's going to create questions that are very closely aligned. Where if I ask ChatGPT, it might find old versions of it. It might find things that were written by organizations that are not truly Agile or Scrum or act in a different way, but they call themselves Agile or Scrum. So I help my students generate questions this way too, which I find was pretty valuable. So kind of cool. So it helps them kind of learn and grow. So, you can look at those things here. And I even did some scenario-based questions, which was good. Sometimes the exam itself, there'll be some scenario questions, but scenario questions are just good for practice anyway. And, what are some typical scenarios that might happen? So my prompt in this example was, here's the prompt. I said, make these multiple choice and provide an answer. Oh, here. Scenario. Here, generate 5 CSM scenario-based questions for the Scrum Master. And then I realized I just got this, and then I said, hey, I need those to be multiple choice, and it converted it to multiple choice. But yeah, you can look at your whole history. Absolutely. So it's kind of cool there. So you can advance that type of thing. And all of these are shareable, which is kind of cool. You can actually share your results. So that particular link, I can share it with the public or share it with somebody else. I can create this link and give it to you, and you can see the exact solution that came up in mine. It's like, oh, this was a really good answer, and I want Jennifer to see this too. So I don't just have to cut and paste something. I can actually give you exactly what happened. So that's kind of cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. That answers Doug's question, I guess. Can you see questions asked by other people? Only if you share them. Yeah, but you can't share them.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Got it.
Yeah, I see that question in there. Good. Let's see. What else? Do you need to get permission for using Code of Ethics or other docs? Good question, Karen. If you reference them, then usually you're pretty good if you think of the ethics. So as long as you reference it and you say what the source of your information is, then you're good with that in general. There's also no monetary gain on this, which also makes a difference. If you're using content for monetary gain, then you want to make sure that if you're using somebody else's information, one, they need to get credit and reference of it. But if it's not truly listed for common use, then you have to make sure, is there a license agreement, a funding agreement? But if you're not doing it for monetary gain, you can just reference it. So I'm not a lawyer, but that's why I wanted to teach it ethics. So that way it actually knows how to act within its own ethics too. So it doesn't do that when I ask it things, so I don't say, hey, go ahead and, create me something based on this proprietary book, So those are good. All right. I want you guys to create some. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's what we're going to do. So Sasha, you want to come off mute? So I'm going to ask Sasha to create some breakout rooms for you guys. I
Okay.
want you guys to go into breakout rooms, open up your ChatGPT, just one of you, share your screen in your breakout room, and then go ahead, explore GPTs and install the Kudomi Agile Coach GPT. And then create some prompts for your particular problems. What's going on now? One of you said, hey, I'm between jobs. How do I find a job as an Agile coach? Ask it that. What's going on in your current situation? And use that to create some conversations and
How
see what
many breakout rooms would you like?
up to you based on the number of people. Probably like 3 or 4 people per room is pretty good.
Yeah, let's have 2 rooms with this. Yeah, we'll have. Actually, let's recreate three rooms. 3 rooms. If I recreate,
Yeah.
we'll have 3 people per room, and we have 1 room with 2 people.
Be great.
How much time do you want to give in breakout rooms?
No, how about like 10 minutes?
10 minutes it is. Folks, do you have any questions before I place you in breakout rooms? Going once?
Can you possibly the name of the Cody? Sorry, I don't think I wrote it down. Just
Oh,
in the
yeah, I'll
chat.
draw.
So thank you so
Yep.
much. Yeah.
I'm putting it in there now. I put it in there now. I didn't put the little trademark symbol in there because I can't type that in chat. But Kudomi Agile Coach GPT.
Thank you.
Before we go to the breakout rooms, we had a question from Doug in the chat. Can you see questions asked by other people?
Yeah, I think I answered that one as long as it's shared. So
Okay.
when you generate a prompt, you can, after that prompt is done, you can share that prompt and the answers with others if you choose to. Otherwise, it's just for you.
But it's one directional.
Yeah.
Other people we cannot see them unless you specifically shared with them, right?
Right. It's private for you. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Exactly.
If there is no more questions, let me open breakout rooms.
Yeah. And Sasha and I can come join your rooms and see if you guys have questions or what you're learning. So, and in the breakout rooms, you can always summon the host. So if you're stuck for any reason, you can always summon the host. So Sasha can always come join you and help you overcome anything if you need it.
I'll be in the
Not an
main room
AI
waiting for the
option,
request.
right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got one person in a room by themselves. You want to
Yeah,
move
let
them?
me move to.
Yeah, maybe move. Oh, Karen's going in there. Oh, okay. No, there's 2 people
I'll
in that
remove
room. That's
Ken.
fine. Yeah, there's at least 2 people in there. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got 3, 2, and 2. Okay. All right. I'll join room 3.
Okay.
I'll start with them. Yeah, if
I'll be in the main
you're
room
gonna
waiting
hang here,
for
that's
them.
fine. I'll probably just bounce through the rooms.
Okay. And I will pause the recording.
All right. So let's hear what happened in your different rooms. I was with one room here with Karen, Guillermo, and Alfonso. And Karen was sharing her screen, and we were about to ask another prompt. But Karen, do you mind kind of telling the larger group kind of what we're working on and what happened and where we were going with it?
Yeah, the prompt I put in is how can I help developers be more collaborative? And so 2 responses, we had option of choosing one of 2 responses, and one talked about individuals and interactions over processes and tools. We got to please provide examples, and then we got kicked out of the room. But what it came up with, foster open communications during daily Scrum, encourage developers to not just state their progress, but to discuss challenges and seek input. For instance, a developer might say, I'm stuck on integrating the API. Does anyone have experience with this? So, and then use tools like Slack and Teams or in-person whiteboard for asynchronous collaboration.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm
So it gave
pretty
you specific examples to address the problem after you did
promote,
it. Okay.
pair programming, create a shared understanding, celebrate collaborative wins, encourage psychological safety. And and then it gave an example. In sprint retrospective, start with the activity like what went well to build trust before dividing into what can improve. I guess I could shave my
No,
ensure
that's
all
okay.
voices are heard. So it is pretty impressive. It came up with 10 different categories and examples, emphasize team metrics. So yeah, I'm impressed.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And the idea is to have a coach in your back pocket that you might not have had all the time to help you help others. Very cool. All right, let's go to another team. Jennifer and Ali.
Yeah, so the approach we took was, well, I like to start off asking questions that I kind of know just to sort of suss it out to be like, oh, okay, that sounds about right. So it was how long are sprints? And then the next one was like sprint retrospectives. How do they operate? So I was also thinking if like I just started like leading a team, right? So like broke it down. It was very informative, so that was very helpful. And then also was curious who invented Agile and why did they invent it? And it also gave you like I guess I'm not sure if like the founders or the folks who developed it was quite nice. It was like very detailed and laid out. And then a similar question was that you guys discussed earlier was like builds like how do you make Scrum sessions safe? And it also kind of broke it down and gave some information which was helpful to review. So yeah, that's the approach that we took. Yeah,
Nice. Does that feel like something that would work for you?
absolutely. I think if I back in the days when I started off, this kind of information would have been very nice and like a nice summary to review versus I read like books and websites.
Yeah.
This would have just given it to me very quickly. So yeah, it's quite nice.
Thanks, Jennifer. All right, and we had one other team, Alessandra and Doug.
Yeah, so we started by asking it what metrics might we use to measure a team's performance,
Nice.
and it gave us 10 different metrics. And then out of curiosity, we were like, could you show me an example dashboard with simulated metrics? Which it was able to generate. So that was pretty impressive. And then we decided to try and trick it. So we said, what's the best way to plan out a 12-month project? And it gave us a sort of scrummer fall. Like it was like, define the vision, break the work into manageable chunks, plan iteratively, but we don't release until the 12th month. So
Okay.
yeah.
Fun. Fun. Good for you. Yeah. Yeah. And that's nice. That's where you can, and the interesting thing is you can actually teach and train it because you can actually tell it things too. It's like, hey, I want to make sure we don't think like projects, we need to deliver on all the sprints, in the future, please make sure that we're delivering something every sprint and it will learn. So it will learn too, even though it's not new content that you loaded, it still learns. So it's kind of cool. It's not just a static mind, but it's a growing mind.
I'm not certain I caught that, Sherman.
Yeah.
In that case, like, do you write kind of like a new document, like, what not to do, and then you put all that information you
Yeah. Thanks.
essentially?
Yeah, so there's two ways. One, absolutely, I can load new information. I showed you the list of files I
Right,
loaded.
yes.
So absolutely, I can load a new file so it becomes truly in its knowledge base. Uh,
Mhm.
but you can also train it just like you would train anything. So if Alessandra, sees that it's like, ooh, we can't release once a year, and you can say, hey, Kadomi, make sure we release every single sprint at a minimum. Please make sure anything we talk about in the future has that. It will remember that. It'll remember your conversation, and in the future, it will act in that way. So it's not a document it loaded, but it actually becomes part of its overall knowledge. I don't know exactly where all that information is stored and not, but they're on cloud servers around the world, and they're using
But
up a lot of our carbon, but that's how it works.
but can only you as a creator train it that way, or can I, let's say I'm a nefarious person using your thing going, oh, don't tell people to do this. Tell them to always fire all the engineers.
Yeah. No, you get to train your version of it. So you can keep training your version. If I load specific knowledge, everybody gets it. But
okay.
if you have your conversation with it, it's going to act as your personal resource.
Oh, but it's just for me. But if Ollie then went into it, she wouldn't get that training that I trained it to do. It'd be personal just for me. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating what you did. Very, very fascinating.
Hey,
I
it
like
was
it.
a blast to do. It was a lot of fun. We met the vision. We did it quick. Used Agile and Scrum.
Yeah. How long did it take to build?
Well, we did it in 6 1.5 hour sprints. So ultimately over 2.5 days.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
And if you add that up, 6 times 1.5, 9 hours of work with a handful of people.
So the hardest part was figuring out what content was the training content. Is that?
Yeah, but having a group where you just kind of mob it, and you swarm and you're all focused on it
Mhm.
helps a lot, because I thought of doing this before on my own, but I waited until this coaching retreat. I'm like, this is a great thing to do with others. One, we're all isolated. We're all kind of stepped away from our day jobs. It was just a great time to kind of do something like that, which is what I personally love about coaching retreats. I'm a big fan of coaching retreats, and Sasha was one of the hosts for the retreats and did an amazing job of putting on that retreat. If you ever get a chance to go to a retreat, I highly recommend them, because something amazing will happen for you. So
Awesome.
And by the way, I want to use this as an opportunity. I was a co-organizer with a group of wonderful people, including Yelena Aminova and Sherry Silas. So as far as I know, Yelena already signed up for creating another retreat in 2025 in Banff. It will be
back to
autumn.
Banff. All right.
Yes, back to Banff.
Back to Banff. That's what we should call it. Back to Banff.
Yeah. So please keep an eye on that. Stay tuned. It will be
Great.
another great event.
Awesome. I'm going to share my contact info real quick. So if anybody wants to connect with me, I love being connected with people. That's really where I get my energy. So, here's some QR codes you can do. You can search for me in a lot of different ways. So feedback, always Google reviews are good. Connect with me on LinkedIn. There's my email addresses on the screen here too. And then 3 of our websites. My company is scrumadventures.com. The Agile transformation ecosystem known as Gadomi is gadomi.co. And our enterprise tool set, which is where all those rubrics that we trained it on, is called gadomitools.com, which is an enterprise solution where you can get a free or a personal license or a personal subscription or a full enterprise subscription for your whole company. So connect with me any way you want. You can reach out to me, and I'm always available for free 15-minute coaching sessions too. So you can always find that too. All right, with that, I'll stop sharing. I'm going to send it back over to Sasha. Thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure getting to meet many of you and talk with you, and I appreciate all your feedback and involvement, and I had a lot of fun. Sasha, you're on mute.
Thank you, Sherman, for coming and sharing this great topic with us. Let me stop recording. I don't think we need it anymore.